It's time for Recipe of the Day. I don't know who needs to hear this today, but making that really easy dinner that your whole family loves and eats up every time is not a cop-out. If they like it and it's easy for you, you can make it. I say this because I sometimes feel like, I don't know, weirdly guilty when I'm making my meal plan and write down like the same thing that I know we just had the other day, but it is totally okay. And I'm thinking that because that's kind of how I feel about the recipe that I'm telling you about today. It's barely a recipe. I make it for us all the time to the point where I'm like, oh, am I really writing this down again? But we all love it. And, I hadn't put it on the sites because it just seemed so, I don't know, obvious and I don't know, even boring. But since I do make it all the time, it felt like it was time. So the taco bowl recipe that we have probably every second week, this is one of the ways that I make it. And yeah, we all love it. I think, it's kind of like all these bowl recipes where you put out different toppings and people customize theirs how they want them. So everybody does get a bowl full of stuff that they like and can skip the things they don't like. So I think that's probably part of it. I also usually use ground beef, or sometimes I do the skirt steak or flank steak for this one. So we all really like that. And there's like taco seasoning flavors. So yeah, it's just good. And so this is your permission to today make whatever super easy thing that everybody in your house likes. Go ahead. And if you don't have one of those, well, then you need to make the taco bowl because it will become one of those. So I usually use rice as the base for this, white rice or brown rice. And I was going to say cook it according to your package instructions, but I usually do mine in the Instant Pot. So for white rice, I will link to my Instant Pot rice recipe, but I'll tell you, you rinse the rice in a fine mesh sieve, put it in the Instant Pot. This is for white rice. And then you put 1 1/3 times as much water. So if it's 1 cup of rice, it's 1 1/3 cups of water. If it's 2 cups of rice, it's 2 2/3 cup of water, some salt, and it goes for 6 minutes at high pressure, 5-minute natural release, and it'll stay perfect at keep warm forever. For brown rice, I do everything exactly the same that I just said. 1 1/3 times as much water, the salt. The only difference is it's 22 minutes at high pressure and then the 5-minute natural release. So that is how I do my Instant Pot rice. I will also sometimes use leftover rice for this if I know that I'm going to be having this, which is like always, like I said, and there's rice in something else that I'm making. I'll make twice as much. And then I'll just give you my tip for reheating rice in the microwave. Put it into whatever microwave safe bowl or container you're using, and then put a little bit of water in the bottom of the bowl. I kind of just drizzle it over the rice. And then you want a lid of some kind that's like tented, not fully sealed, and you microwave it till it's warm. The water in there evaporates and kind of like absorbs into the rice, like steaming it again, and fluffs it up. It turns out perfect. So those are the rice things that you've got going on. And then for meat, the recipe calls for a pound of lean ground beef. But like I said, you can use just about anything. If you're starting from scratch, then you can do the ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey. I will link to my how to cook ground turkey for you because it can be a little bit dry sometimes and you might want some tips on that. One of my main tips is to add mushrooms while it's cooking. It adds a lot of moisture, like finely chopped mushrooms. You barely know they're there. So that is one thing. And then if you're using like little bite-sized pieces of chicken, that's great. You just cook that up first, seasoned the same way I'm going to tell you. The other thing you can do is leftover cooked meat or rotisserie chicken. Then I would just advise that you taste it first. And if it's already salted enough, you don't want to add any kind of salt to it. If it's not salted enough, you can go in with the store-bought taco seasoning that I'm going to be talking about or homemade taco seasoning. Now, if it was already salted enough, just a little chili powder and garlic powder, that's going to do it. And then you're not adding more salt. Okay, so assuming that you are starting with uncooked ground beef, you've got your rice cooking, 1 cup of uncooked white rice cooking, however you want to cook it, and you've got a pound of lean ground beef. You're going to heat a large skillet over medium high. You're going to add the meat, and you're going to cook, stirring it occasionally until it's browned and cooked through about 6 to 8 minutes. Then you can stir in 2 tablespoons of store-bought taco seasoning, or you could make your own taco seasoning. I will link to my taco seasoning recipe for you, But, like with all of my seasoning blends, I have the ingredients for how to make a full half cup batch, which will fit in like a standard 4-ounce spice jar. But I also have the ingredients you need to make 2 tablespoons, which is exactly what we called for here. So I'm just going to tell you what you need to mix up if you are making your own, and you will have the exact 2 tablespoons that you need. It is 1 3/4 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of onion powder, 3/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 3/4 teaspoon of dried oregano, a 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of regular paprika or smoked paprika, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. The cornstarch is in there to just thicken everything slightly. When you add the store-bought taco seasoning to things, it says to also add some water, and then you stir and cook, and it makes just like a little sauce that kind of clings to the meat. That's what the cornstarch is there for, but it's optional. Okay, so you cooked up the meat, you added the 2 tablespoons of your seasoning and also 2 tablespoons of water. Give that a stir and take it off the heat. Now, your meat you could keep warm, like off the heat in the same skillet or on the element that it was cooked on, but with the element off or turned down to low. It's going to be good there. And then when your rice is done, by then you will have made all these toppings or gotten all these toppings ready, which is really kind of up to what your family likes and like how much time you have, and I guess how much energy you have. I usually buy the already shredded cheese. So I just put some shredded cheddar or Tex-Mex cheese into a bowl with a little spoon. And then I do iceberg lettuce. That is our go-to. Everybody likes it. I just get like a 1/2 head of it, maybe 1/3 of a head, slice that thinly, and then 2 tomatoes chopped up and some green onions chopped up. And I can stop there. I just put out some sour cream and some salsa and tortilla chips. I just put the bag of tortilla chips out, and everybody kind of reaches in and grabs like 3 or 4 and crushes them over their finished bowls. Now, the other things that you can add in addition to that is, of course, you can do guacamole, pico de gallo. You could chop up some avocados, some sliced olives, jalapenos, fresh ones minced up, or you could do the jarred rings. So really you can take it like a little bit further if you want to. You could do corn, frozen corn thawed, black beans. I will say actually, I have done this before on like a super busy day with just the corn and the black beans, guacamole, salsa, sour cream, cheddar cheese, the meat, and the rice. It was really, really quick and easy. The other thing that I've done sometimes is called them fajita bowls, and I've added some like sauteed or like slightly stir-fried, I guess, peppers and onions to the set of toppings. So you see, you can kind of go like maximum effort or thaw some corn and open a can of beans, minimum effort, once you have the rice and the meat done. Then you set everything out kind of assembly line style in bowls or whatever you cook them in with tongs and spoons. And I will tell you, this is just a weird thing about my family. We do this dinner in pie plates. I have like 8-inch pie plates. I'm not sure how it started. It started during the pandemic a long time ago. But yeah, instead of regular plates or bowls, we do pie plates for this one. Oh, you know what? I think it's because my daughter back then, and still sometimes, didn't like everything touching. She wanted separate piles of everything, but she still wanted the sort of edges like a bowl. And so somehow that evolved into pie plates. So whatever you're doing this on or in, everybody gets one and then they make their way through. I do rice, then cheese, then meat, so that the cheese kind of melts a little bit in between those two warm things. And then whatever toppings you want, finish off with the sour cream, salsa, and those crushed tortilla chips. Easy dinner that we should all feel good about. No guilt. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is March 3rd of 2025. That's right. We are definitely in March now. You can also get the link in our Facebook group. I post the new recipe of the day link every single day in there. That is at facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. I look forward to seeing you there. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.